Okay, episode 31. Thank you for joining me once again here. And this is the idea about following your intuition, allowing your conscious to be your guide, as Jiminy Cricket says, hence the little eyeglass smiley face man. And it's that introspection, that inner tutor that is always here for us, guiding us, nurturing us. And if we truly listen, if we truly pay attention, it's always communicating something. And it's really our job to decipher exactly what that is. And once we have enough information, to then take action on it. And to give you a great example, I was doing a podcast today and we recorded the whole thing. Rather, we didn't record the whole thing. We did the whole podcast. Now it was a short one. And, guess what? Wasn't recorded. So obviously it's, a live podcast, recorded one. And I knew it, like, the whole time I knew it, but just, the way it was, the way the gentleman was, he was, very gracious, warm-hearted guy. But I could tell something wasn't quite adding up here, but it's his thing. He's kind of run the show. And we got into like kind of a flow. It wasn't really a flow because I could feel that the recording button wasn't on, and I knew it, and I could had this feeling, and I didn't communicate that simply for the fact that I thought maybe he's using some other recording device or something, but that's just the mind kind of justifying it. And so what you really want to do is get to the stage, and these are all little training steps for us. You get to the stage where you get that intuition, and it doesn't matter what it looks like, doesn't matter who's in charge, who has authority. If you get the thing, then you just speak it, right? And not just blurting it out necessarily, but there's a natural rhythm to it. And you just say, like, hang on, in the case of this podcast, hang on here before we even get started. Is this thing actually, might sound, you don't even have to justify it. Is this thing actually being recorded, right? And that's also another thing sometimes with our intuition, is that we want to justify why we're bringing it up. And there's a level of mastery there as well, and that you don't have to justify it. You just say it. Hey, is this thing actually being recorded? And what's the worst thing you risk is like looking like an idiot. Like, well, of course it's being recorded, Matthew. What do you think? I'm, an idiot? You're like, well, no, but I don't see the recording button on here, right? So we feel like we need to justify this inner voice at times, right? And then if that justification isn't present, then sometimes we withhold it or suppress it. And bottom line is, like, don't do that. Don't suppress yourself. If you have that intuition about something, communicate it with humility, communicate it respectfully, but communicate it nonetheless. And when you come from a place of assertion about it, rather than aggression, rather than needing to justify why you're saying it, then there's a lot more power there as well. So that's a critical, mission critical perspective on how to allow your intuition to be your guidance system, allowing yourself to follow your intuition. And you're always learning, right? Because the idea of life itself is a work in progress. It's a mastery. It's an art. It's an art form. Life is an art form. And you don't really start to understand that fully until you listen to that intuition a little bit more, and then take action and follow through on it. But then you gain little things. It's like, oh, it was communicating something to me, but I didn't do it. And it's never really a big deal, but you'll feel it enough to always remember it too. And it'll imprint on you, and you'll never make the same mistake again, so to speak, because a mistake's only a mistake if you're not learning from it. So if you truly follow this guidance system, if you have your system clear enough where you're not using substances, or you're not abusing food, or you don't drink, alcohol at all, or very little, this intuition really works well. It gets clouded over when you have substances, when you overeat, when you overthink, when you're involved with people's vibrations that are not appropriate. For example, I had someone in my life recently, and it seemed like, hey, maybe this is a connection. And part of it really felt that way, but then another part of it was really like there's a lot energetically going on there, and it wasn't like an even sort of thing. And this person's absolutely amazing, wonderful human being, But energetically that alignment isn't there. And when you try and fit a square peg into a round hole, it doesn't fit, and it ends up feeling contorted. And I was going through that type of experience for a few hours, 12-hour, 24-hour period. Maybe, I don't think it was quite that long, but for a period of time. And over the past week, kind of been tuning into that a little bit more, and then it kind of hit me full force. It's like what this is, and it's like, this isn't going to work, with this other person. Not in the way that I was, maybe not necessarily intending, but in the direction that things were potentially moving. It's not going to work in a relationship setting, which is, perfectly fine. But rearrange it, and it's like, hey, this probably makes a great friendship and a potential business partnership in some way, shape, or form down the line. So there's always a way to look at things and organize it differently as well. And your intuition's going to provide that. So the intuition was providing, like saying, hey, Matthew, this isn't going to work, but got caught up in other belief systems and programs and definitions and conditioning and ideas, and it all bubbles up, and then it's like overwhelm. And then you got to kind of sort through that and organize it. And then you realize, oh, okay, this is exactly what I need to do. And then even like that, it's like, oh, well, there's a sense of sadness there because like there's an attachment, or like, what if? But realizing, well, it probably just couldn't go that way anyway. So the more you allow your intuition to guide these processes in your life, the sifting and sorting isn't logical. It's intuitive, it's emotional, and you can feel where the energies are and where they need to be placed and how they need to be positioned in your life, so that you can always have creative self-expression. Because if you're ever involved in an interaction that's making you feel more suppressed than what you're used to, or then you can sense your full potential of freedom in that space, then there's something to look at and reorganize. And that's when you really start paying attention to your intuition. Right? And some things require more delicate than others. And it also is dependent on your attachments to things, right? Like the people closer in your life, or maybe that have some level of seeming control over, your survival, right? So like parents, we give a lot of authority to parents when we're growing up as kids, because, if we go too far, some kids deem like, well, maybe they won't love me, maybe they'll kick me out. And that actually happens in some cases, right? Depending on the age, and so things like that happen. And then in some cases that's never going to happen, but the child might still have that impression because maybe the parent gives that impression even though they're never actually going to do that. So there's a whole variety of things that we work through, and then we carry that into our adulthood until we really look at these beliefs and say, hey, wait a sec, this ain't appropriate, this ain't an appropriate way to look at things. This isn't an appropriate way to respond. So that's the crux of the idea here, is really empowering yourself to follow your intuition on these things, sort it out, get clarity on it, and just be prepared for the next time, because the lessons will repeat if you don't learn them the first time. And often when you do learn it and then role play it in your mind or out loud, which is another wonderful way to do it, just like actors reciting their lines before they go on to set and record, you just replay these things from a productive standpoint, and how would you prefer to respond? And then you just create that in your brain neurology, and that's now who you are. And then you'll have the opportunity again to present yourself in some way, shape, or form in that fashion at some point, maybe in exactly the same circumstance, or something slightly different, or something a lot different but still has energetic correlations. So that's it for today. Allow your intuition to be your guide. Follow your intuition. Allow your conscious to be your guide, just that inner voice. It's always there for you. And it's built in, right? It's not about like cultivating. It's more cultivating it more. It could be in the sense of like you're building that relationship with your intuition, right? So you're understanding it at a deeper level. But it's always there for you. And that relationship is eternal, forever. And it's just up to you to decide, how do you want to have that relationship with yourself? Because that's your most important relationship in all of existence, is with you and knowing yourself at the deepest core level. So thank you so much for tuning in. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. And of course, Today we had an amazing Phoenix Rising Masterclass. I invite you to attend next Sunday, every Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, this Wednesday, Quantum Goal Activation class, 2 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern. If you would enjoy activating your goals at the deepest core level of consciousness and allow it to manifest in a way that is synchronistic, ecstatic, and tons of fun, then absolutely join us. Reach out to me. I'll connect you with the details and the link. And I look forward to seeing you there. Bye for now.